trying to not necessarily change the opinion of people, but to make them reflect and question their belief system. At least that's sort of, I guess, one of the things I'm trying to do, especially sort of the kind of message I'm bringing is not necessarily a majority view. I don't think it's that unpopular, but it's in Europe at least not a majority view. It's in favor of free markets, freedom of speech, and these kind of things, of course, for example, if you see now we have a massive energy crisis and instinctively people are thinking, oh, we need to tax energy companies, we need to cap the price, we should stick with what we have always done, believe in, let's say, promoting renewable energy, even if I think in practice this has been proven to be one of the reasons why we're in trouble, because it's not so reliable and we have not been investing in fossil fuels, but we have at the same time been relying on non-European fossil fuels. So anyway, so those are sort of non-majority views, and I think it's, of course, it's very hard to change somebody's mind. But I do think that even people that are very outspoken, including myself, that they always have a place somewhere where they can accept a dissident thought. Like, for example, for me, I could see that even if we're in a massive crisis, and I'm very much against subsidies, when you have a lot of companies going bankrupt, bakeries, butchers, but also industrial companies, steel companies, I mean, the case for government action to prop them up, I must admit, is much more strong. And I think, if I'm explaining it well, that to influence it is to at least offer people the elements so they can then, draw their own conclusions. It's not to try to push them what to think, but to at least try to give them some facts that hopefully then may lead them to conclude something that is closer to one's own opinion. Well, of course, your ranking, I think, has done a pretty good job trying to objectify this. It's of course very hard, but if on the top of my head I think you look at the number of retweets, the number of tweeted by MEPs, two more that I can't remember, but they all sounded pretty sensible to me. And it's not easy to objectivize these things, but that doesn't mean one should not try to do it in an imperfect way. And when I look at the result, I think I'm on a daily basis on Twitter, and of course the EU Brussels policy bubble is not just like the national bubble. There it's much easier. You have the media, you have all the people that have an official mandate, public mandate, and maybe some university and academics, and they form the public opinion of a country, of an EU member state. In the Brussels bubble, you have many other players. If President Medvedev, what's his name now, the Putin, ally Medvedev tweets something that can be relevant for the Brussels bubble. If some American think tanker tweets something that can be relevant for the Brussels bubble, it could be a Spanish academic, a Finnish politician. They could be tweeting in their own language. They could be tweeting in English. So it's not easy to capture it, but it's nevertheless, there is something like an EU bubble, but it's very fluid, and you have the different languages, but that's not the only issue. Yeah, and then well done coming up with some kind of a metric to try to come up with a ranking or at least a list. Honored to be in the top 50 ultimately. I mean, that's, I think, quite good already. I mean, I'm quite happy with it, really. I'm sure there's people on the list that, or people that not on the list that probably should deserve a place there as well. The actual ranking is what it is. I think I would not call myself definitely the one in the top 10. I would not agree with that assessment, and I was like around 30 or between 30 and 40. Strikes me as definitely not an exaggerated position for me, or at least I would not feel comfortable to be at the top. I think when I tweet something, it very much depends on the topic. The Twitter algorithm is also very hard to crack. If people ask me what is your advice, I find it incredibly hard to answer, and I actually googled a bit on advice, on how to tweet better and more effectively, and it was very hard to find good advice in my experience. So actually tonight I heard some very sensible recommendations, the best one being repetition. Repetition is the mother of education, and I think that's actually very true, because not everybody is all the time on Twitter.